What's up, everybody? Welcome to techstand. This podcast is brought to you by Born2Global Centre, the Korean government's global deep tech startup incubation and acceleration agency under the Ministry of Science and ICT. My name is SK and I'll be your host throughout the journey of these podcasts, which is specifically dedicated to inviting Korea's most prominent startups onto the show to dive into their business, but more importantly, to dive into them at a more personal level. Because what we have noticed this year is that many Korean startups have grown at an exponential rate, even despite this COVID situation. So we want to show you guys, what these startups have been through, how they navigated themselves to get from point A to point B, which hopefully will, bring you guys valuable insights about how our startups and how they rose above the pandemic, as well as to give you guys a better understanding about Korea's startup ecosystem. However, for the very first episode, we thought that it would be more meaningful to bring in someone from Born2Global Centre to talk about who we are and what our goals are. And before we get on to the show, I would like to mention that the audio for this podcast might be a little bit off due to some technical issues that we had with the mic. So please bear with us throughout this first episode, and we'll make sure to bring you guys better quality podcasts in the days to come. So please enjoy the show. For our very first guest, we have Mr. Sokjin Chang. He is the director of the international cooperation team at Born2Global Centre. He is not only a star of multiple major events that we've conducted throughout the year, but he's also the star, the main man who has really shifted the dynamics of our team and how, us as Born2Global, are aiming to help our startups expand into the global market. So please, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for that flattering introduction. And I apologize to our viewers for stealing this seat from the numerous entrepreneurs and innovators and startups of Korea that could be here talking about their solutions and ideas. Hopefully, we can usefully take the opportunity today to discuss some of the activities that we are doing together.
Right. So right into the point. Could you maybe briefly just let our viewers know, who we are as Born2Global Centre?
Well, as you just mentioned, Born2Global Centre, as its name signifies, is an organization that has a key focus of globalizing and assisting the globalization and the overseas market expansion of Korea's deep tech startups. We are very unique in the sense that we focus on deep tech startups as we are under the Ministry of Science and ICT. So our main priority is to take these deep tech startups, assist them through our consultations, through our product market fit programs, through our boot programs, through our linkages with global development programs, and ultimately have them expand into the global market, and hopefully through collaborative partnerships as well.
Right, so in terms of what we do as our team, because we're both in the same team, something that really just, was very different is that we are now focusing a lot on joint ventures, right? So maybe could you explain, what are the differentiating factors as us Born2Global when we're focusing on joint ventures as opposed to the conventional joint ventures that are currently being run?
Right. Well, the term joint ventures has been around for a long time. Right. And it has usually been an area where usually a medium to larger companies would participate in and would create joint ventures either for mutual partnership or mutual benefit or to expand to other unknown markets and territories. We've taken this idea and said, look, why can't we apply this to entrepreneurs and early stage startups? There's no reason why startups can't form joint ventures. It's just that they need even more assistance because they're not that globalized. They don't have that global exposure that some of these larger companies have. So we have decided that joint ventures between startups have to have three key principles. One, they have to be tech-based, either tech transfers or a collaboration of tech for creating additional synergy. And secondly, they need to have a very, very strong supporter. And we think that Born2Global Centre is not enough. And that's where we've brought in global organizations like Inter-American Development Bank, the World Bank, and other multilateral development banks that will act as sponsors and enablers for these joint ventures to happen. And thirdly, of course, with the growth of the global pandemic, we've seen that it's been impossible for startups to travel abroad. It's been impossible for them to send their people abroad. So we realized that if we can tech match and find the appropriate partners who can localize their solutions in the respective markets, successful cases of joint ventures could be formed.
Maybe we could talk about a little bit more of what the other stuff, the other products, let's say services that we provide our member startups. And I think one thing that is super very different to the usual organizations like ourselves is that we have in-house consultants, right? Like in-house consultants in terms of, in the areas of, let's say, law, patent, marketing, PR, could you maybe talk a little bit about that, how that's very different to,
Right, that's another very unique aspect of Born2Global Centre. We've realized over the years that lawyers are the ones who know lawyers best. Accountants are the ones who know accountants best, which means that yes, we do provide a lot of in-house legal, accounting, patent, marketing, consulting services through our in-house experts that you just mentioned. But more importantly, if a startup wants to expand, for example, to the Mexican market, they would obviously need the assistance of local lawyers in Mexico. However, for a startup who they have with very little knowledge in legal terms, for them to contact them would be very, very difficult. So what we do is we act as an intermediary. Our in-house lawyers would be talking to the local lawyers, coordinate what kind of legal advice, what kind of legal assistance they could receive, and all of this, or most of this, is done through the government finance and government budget.
Right. And one other product, let's say, or program that as Born2Global we're running is the PMF program, the Product Market Fit program, which I think is another amazing program that was recently launched, I think, the year before, in 2019. And that aspect, I think also, in terms of helping our member startups understand, whether their product is actually fit for that target market.
Exactly.
In my opinion, it's just, very one of the key essential, things that the startups need to do before they try to enter the market, right?
Absolutely. Product market fit is really everything for a startup. And all of our viewers, if you are running a startup or if you're thinking about a startup, the first thing and the most important thing for a startup in their road to success is how fit is your product and solution to the market. Now, the story and the logic behind the birth of this PMF program for our member companies was that it's very different when you try to find and really assess your product against an overseas market, which you don't have that much information for. So this new PMF program that we've created through the government budget, again, allows startups to select a region or a few countries in that region. We would select the local partners to do a joint research on how fit their products and solutions would be in that market, who would be the potential customers, would they need to pivot their product, would they need to change the application, and how they would localize their product. One interesting example is a company that has an imaging solution, was very successful in Korea, and they wanted to expand to the US market. Now, they found out that in the US market, because of just the level of difference in terms of the concentration of population, Seoul being a city with over 20 million people, it's a very different market from many of these cities around the United States. So they found that the Korean market or the Korean product model wouldn't work. And they've advised us a different channel and different customer base to approach. And based on that consultation, they have successfully entered that market. So that's where the product market fit program comes in, our support for startups.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, you just gave an example, and another example I would give, because we have yet another program called the BootX program, right? We decided to launch the BootX program, which was launched in 2020 for the first time. And this program is actually focused more on the but the early stage startups, right? And, in that program, we try to help them understand what it takes for them to, enter the global market, the things that they need to prepare for, understand their market readiness, to assess their products beforehand, how to receive investment, what are the processes that they need to know in terms of getting investment from VCs. There was a startup that I've met early this year in May, and this startup ended up being part of the BootX program, right? And back then when I saw them, I was like, I love their program. I love their business model. It was very interesting. And because they're in the logistics transportation industry, and they were targeting the Vietnam market, right? But after the BootX program, I've recently got to connect with them because they weren't part of the programs that I'm currently running with the IDB Lab. But I recently I was able to connect with them, and to see how they've grown in such a short time was like really incredible, right?
Incredible,
and,
yeah.
Like, it's not something that I want to say like, our BootX program is amazing, but it's just, for us to be able to help them navigate through their process of growing and really, show visual of growth was, really, really like truly amazing in my point of view.
Right, and I have to say that one of the key success factors of the BootX program is that it's run by the same people in the Born2Global Centre who run the PMF programs, who run the online IR, the actual offline pitching programs for the more advanced startups, shall I say, in Series A or post-Series A or Series B, which give them the expertise of being able to tell these early stage startups, look, this is the road that you're going to go, and these are the challenges you'll be facing down the road, and this is how other startups have fared and in overcoming these challenges. So it's like a mix of mentorship,
right,
a mix of experience and knowledge sharing among the startups, and at the same time the element of boot camps that many organizations around the world are running.
And another thing that we are doing is also tech matching,
Right.
trying to connect our startups directly with CVCs, which it's just incredible to see how many different programs and how many different services we provide our startups to help them with their business and how to help them with the global market expansion, right?
Right, yeah. It's very interesting. The program with the CVCs and the tech matching is that, as many of you know, the ICT sector companies make up over 16% of the global value in all the stock markets combined.
Right.
And that's how great the interest is in the ICT market. And since a lot of our member startups are in that precise ICT sector, we have been approached by numerous global corporations to really help them source the necessary solutions and the innovative technologies that they want and that they need in expanding their global market share. We have had several cases where the global companies have actually come to us and reverse pitched to us. And they've actually told us, look, these are the challenges we're facing. These are the solutions we're looking for. Now, tell me if you have any companies that can meet and provide us the solutions. So yes, we've been quite successful. I think it's quite interesting that with the pandemic, there has been even more sessions of these tech matching between global companies and startups in Korea, just because of the fact that now physical distance has really no meaning.
Right.
We could have a tech matching session with a company in Germany, and then have one with a company in Dubai, and have one with a company in the US in the afternoon. So this has enabled us to really accelerate this tech matching and meet really the tech needs of global corporations at the same time. And I think that personally, the greatest impact that this COVID situation has brought to the world, aside from all the unfortunate sicknesses that's going around, is that it has totally accelerated digital transformation.
Yes.
And it's accelerated so much that conventional infrastructures, for example, schools, hospitals, even to how our kids study things, and it's just transformed everything. And that's when these startup solutions started to really surface, and the amount of interest in new innovative ways of dealing with or replacing the conventional ways of doing things has really brought again the focus on our deep tech startups.
Right. Another aspect, of course, for me, I think, is very inspiring to see how our colleagues, right? Being part of this team and this whole center for me, I think was a very, it makes me proud to be able to be part of Born2Global Centre because of what we do as our mandate, to help our member startups, I think is great and is really truly inspiring to see how our colleagues really dedicate their time to, try to create the optimal services for our member startups, because I do feel like we ourselves are a startup too, in the sense that we really try to pivot our services, right, every time. So because from what I heard, what we did last year is at least to a certain extent different to what we're doing now. And right now we're also trying to pivot our services to to really match the needs of our startups, what they really need, because we really want to, that's our main goal, right?
Yeah, I think one of the key roles for a leader in an organization, no matter how big or small, is to create more opportunities, to expand the horizon of the people working in that group. And that's, I think, one of the key motivators for me to find out new ways that we can collaborate with bigger, globally more important entities, such as the World Bank, the Inter-American Development Bank, going out to African Development Bank, Asian Development Bank, even to the green and climate sector, like the Green Climate Fund. I think it just creates opens eyes to new possibilities. And one common denominator between all of these global institutions is that there is not a single global entity that is not interested in entrepreneurship, promotion of startups, and promotion of new growth engines. And I think we can play a role in that aspect.
Well, I feel like this was an amazing first session, right, for like the very first episode of the podcast. And before we end the show, I'd like to ask a quick 4 questions.
Okay.
Right? So, I'll just go straight into it.
So these are quick questions, right?
Yes, quick questions. So the first question is your favorite or most recent book you've read?
It has to be Loonshots by Sokjin. It's a book that really provides the fundamental and the logical background of our work. And I think it's just brought so much light onto the value of what we do here. And I think for me, it's a book that really inspired me to say, look, what we are doing is really something for a better future, basically.
Right, and because like you mentioned, you should read Loonshots. It will really help you understand what us as an organization are trying to achieve. And I did read it, and it was reading reading the first chapter really like opened my eyes to what us as an organization, us as Born2Global are trying to achieve, and what we're trying to do to help our startups, on the deep tech, really see the light and really grow to a global scale, right? Okay, so the next question is your role model.
My role model, well, I don't have to disclose his or her name, right?
Of course.
My role model is one of a former president of Korea, and the reason that he was a role model is because I barely saw an opportunity where that person got angry. Mm-hmm. And being a president of a nation, right, it's going to get a lot of anger out of you. Of course. But I almost never saw that president get angry. And then I had the opportunity to hear from him why. And the reason was there's always more to lose from being angry at something than to gain. So I try to keep that as a personal motto myself.
Right. That's super interesting. Third question, your favorite childhood memory?
My favorite childhood memory.
I
remember. That's a random question. I've never thought. No, I think it was when I first landed in the Ezeiza airport in Buenos Aires when I was 10 years old. Oh, right. And it's a favorite memory because I can never forget the personal shock of being in a new country, in a non-English speaking country. Right. Everything being so different. And yet, getting this tingling inside you, realizing that everything that you're going to experience from now on, or almost everything, is going to be new. Right. And just that rush of adrenaline, that excitement that it instills in you, I think that's something that I will never forget.
Wow. That's some crazy memory that you have as a 10-year-old, right?
That's right.
Okay, so the last question is, who's one person or, you think we should have or know on the show?
Well, now I think it's time to give an opportunity to our startups. And we have so many startups that I can't really think of one. I would have to say maybe Coconut Silo. Coconut Silo is a company in logistics, and I think logistics is going to be an area that's going to be so much more focused on in the days to come, even through this pandemic. So, and I think their solution is quite very, very interesting.
Yes.
Can be applied to so many areas. So yeah, I mean, I would have maybe the CEO, the COO, I don't care. I think anyone from Coconut Silo might be, bring interesting information, ideas to our viewers.
Right, that was an amazing suggestion.
Thank you.
We'll make sure we bring Coconut Silo.
Well, I hope to hear from them as well.
100%. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. For those who are watching or listening, for more information about us, about Born2Global and our member startups, please visit our LinkedIn for regular updates. And this has been your host, SK. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next year with an exciting startup. Hopefully, it will be Coconut Silo. Thank you very much.
Thank you, SK. Thank you, everyone.